that I said I would. Okay, so as I've already stated, yesterday's recording can be found on the journal for Wednesday of our class website, along with the instructions and the PDFs if you need them, which I'm going to use them today. So here's that tutorial, okay? And we started it yesterday. We're kind of on this part right here. And here are the PDFs when I need them. And what we now have is a project with 2 files in it. By the end of this project, we'll have, I think it's like 6 or 7 files in there, okay? We built this design, okay? So a place where you can enter your name and then choose a motorcycle, choose a car, or choose a truck, okay? And we kind of worked on those a little bit yesterday. I'm gonna take a second to make these buttons a little bit smaller, okay? That's one thing about this designer is it doesn't always cooperate with you. So hang on, let me go back here a little bit. It tries to help you by sort of helping position these things and helping size these things, but sometimes it's not helpful and sometimes it ends up screwing it up and moving things all around, all over the place. So it is something you got to kind of tweak and work with a little bit. It isn't always the most intuitive thing to work with, but with a little bit of practice, you can kind of get it in a sort of in a position there. Why are you being like that with me? This thing is causing me issues right here. Okay, I probably shouldn't have done that. Back to where we started today. Here we go. Okay, so let's go back to here. So now I'm back to here. Now I need these 4 labels to also be here and over here, okay? But then I change them. But yes, like a lot of designing programs, you can copy and paste stuff. You can copy and paste and then move it over and then paste and move it over. You can do that stuff. Like, it is still a designer. Like I said, it takes a little quirkiness to it. It takes a little sort of massaging to get used to it, but it's not perfect. But at least you're building a user interface. One thing I could point out, there's this little button right here with a little eyeball on it. This is a way you can kind of preview what it would look like if it was up and running right now, what that design would look like. So that's just something you could experiment with as well, is that little thing to preview it. All right, so what do I have to do? I have to change this to say green and blue up top there. So I'm going to do that. What's going on here? All right, so I select the label. I go to text. I type in green, hit enter. Select the label. I select text. Type in blue. I hit enter. Okay. So that's a way you do this, right? Using this thing called a properties window, you find the property called text, you type in a new property, and it changes it on the design. You don't end up double clicking over here. Don't do that, because that's going to jump you over to the code, and we don't want to do that. All right, what else? Medium speed and slowest. So I'm going to go here, type in medium speed. Oops. Spell medium right, Walks. Come on. Really, this designing part shouldn't take that long. I'm just kind of I'm definitely slow at this, but there we go. Medium build and big build. There's actually entire fields of computer science, entire jobs that it's based just on user interface design. Sometimes that's not the job of a computer scientist, someone who has coding skills. Sometimes that's the job of someone who has a art or a graphic arts background to lay out designs like that, okay? And then we got can take 1 collision, can take 3 collisions. So. Can take 1 collision, and copy that. we go. That's a finished design now, right? That's my finished design of this vehicle select screen. Okay, and that's what the tutorial said to do, was to build this design up. Doesn't have to look exactly like this in, but before we leave this and get on to coding, we are going to have to name some things on this design. Not everything, just the 3 buttons need a name, and the text field, which is like a text box. If you took the grade 10 course, and I know a couple of you did, you might recognize this part of the process where you name your objects before you code them. As you can see, the names are pretty simple here, what I gave. I don't use some fancy 3-letter thing like maybe you learned in the grade 10 course. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I wanted to keep it pretty simple. Now, here's the process it says to do this. To change the names of things, you right-click on it and go change variable name. So let me show you how that works. I go to this thing, and I'm going to name that thing, as it said here, name text. So I'm going to right-click on it and go to change variable name and put in there name text. So I'm renaming that label, pardon me, that text thing, that text field, name text. It's not called J text field 1 anymore. It's now called name text. As far as the labels go, I know the labels are named things like J label 1, J label 2. Those don't really matter that much, okay? So we're just gonna leave those and not worry about the name of those. But we are gonna name the buttons. They're gonna be choose 1 button, choose 2, choose 3. So I'm gonna right click and change variable name, choose 1 button, right click, change variable name, choose 2 button, right click, change variable name, choose 3 button. Okay, this is now done, okay? This is now done in terms of what the instructions said to do. I've done everything it said to do on this page. Then it says, and now we're going to add code to this thing, okay? So in the adding of the code, in order to help avoid typing a lot of this code, now I'm going to go to this folder and open up the one that is the vehicle select, this one here, because it's going to have all the code in it, and I can copy and paste from it. Not all at once, but I'm going to slowly copy and paste sections of it over. So there's the PDF. Okay, get a little bit bigger. And I realize that one of the things I'm going to need to paste into here is a comment at the top of this big comment right here. Okay, that this vehicle selection screen is using one of NetBeans's features to build a graphical user interface. This is something that you might be familiar with if you took the grade 10 course and you used Visual Studio. It does this as well. It allows you to use this toolbox and add tools and use a properties window to essentially use like a drag and drop interface to build a user sort of design there. This frame or form is used to, as far as our game goes, is at the start of the game, the user will pick which vehicle they're going to drive in, and the labels just describe each vehicle, okay? So I'm going to copy this right off of the internet, right off of that PDF. I'm going to copy that comment, go over to this, switch from design view to source, the source code. And then I'm going to replace the comment that is here with the comment I copied. That was really easy, okay? There's also this weird comment up top that we're gonna just get rid of, just delete it. And there's the comment. You should change the author name to your name, obviously, right? So this is, what did we say our name was? Let me go back here. Oh, we didn't change it back here as well. So this would be CS30S student. Okay, that would be, or obviously you'd be putting your name there, right? It's not December of 2020, it's June 2021. So I've made that change to the comments there. Okay, what other code can I put in? Well, if I go back to that thing here, right underneath it, there's a big note that I could put in there, but I actually don't need that comment. But I am going to read it, It says the method below. What method? Oh, yeah, I see a method right here. There's this little method right here. What is that? And by studying methods this year, you will recognize what a method is. Oh, you see this method. It says it's called a constructor method. Classes can have this special method which has no return type, not even the word void, and uses the same name for the method as the same name for the class, including using, weirdly, a capital letter, just like up here. So it's a weird method called a constructor method. The word public is always used with the constructor method, as the method is always called outside the class when an object of this class is created or constructed. If the constructor method has no parameters, it's called a default constructor method. So what this actually means is, what you might be realizing is, this weird method is what was happening back here on this line of code we typed yesterday. It was right here with these two round brackets that it looked like we were calling a method, and this is what that was. It was this thing called a constructor method. So you know what? I'm going to take the code from the PDF here, because it looks like it's added a comment and it's also added another thing here. So I'm going to take all of this code, starting up here, including the comments. Watch that I make sure I copy the brackets and everything. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to replace the code that I had here with my constructor method. And now you're going to see one of the weird quirks of copying and pasting from a PDF. It doesn't always get it right. It doesn't always fix the indents, and it doesn't always make it perfect. So as good as it is to not have to type in all that code, it also leads to a couple little problems that we got to fix. And so on this video, I'm going to give you the best tip for fixing these problems. Rather than go in and spend all your time doing this by hand, you might remember that there was a tip I gave in NetBeans way back in one of the first units. And this tip is located on the keyboard shortcuts card built right into NetBeans. So let me open that up for a second here. It's a tip to automatically fix, format, and clean up your code. So here's that keyboard shortcuts card, and it was actually right here on the first page. If you use this keyboard command, it will automatically format. What's important to note here is it says a selection, which means you should be selecting the code that you want to format. Okay, so let me show you what I mean by this. What I'm going to do is I just pasted in this code. Let me undo back. I pasted in the code, but it's all messed up. I then select the code. So I've made a selection of the code I just pasted, and I press Alt-Shift-F. It automatically formats it. So it fixes all those weird indents and stuff. Now it still isn't perfect. You can see right here that somehow it didn't copy and paste a space between and the. But that's easily fixed. Add the space here. Now the fact that this is a mistake is okay. That's supposed to happen. But I wanted you to remember that tip, the Alt-Shift-F. Because if you're going to do copying and pasting, and if you're not going to type in all this code, which I do recommend, because it will take longer than an hour if you end up typing all the code, which is your prerogative. You certainly can do that to help you learn this stuff. But if you're going to do the copy paste, definitely remember that Alt-Shift-F after you paste it in to format it. It may not be the case. You may have it may paste in fine, but chances are you might have to clean it up a little bit. Okay. Now back to that code. Whoops, right here. So then it says, okay, note the code below. So is there code below? Yeah, there is. There's some code below. What does it say about it? It says that code is written by NetBeans and you can't alter it. NetBeans puts a comment in that code indicating you can't do this. You can collapse this code, okay, but you can't alter it. So what I mean is this code down here, you can collapse it, but you can't alter it. One thing you can alter is it does put in this version of main whenever you do a user interface. Now, if you like, you can just completely ignore this because it's really not going to do anything. This thing called main. But you'll notice there's this code that has this sort of grayish background on it. That means you can't change that code. If I tried to go in there and type something, it won't let me. But this code here where it has main, you can change it. And what I would recommend if you'd like to avoid getting confused by it is just delete it. Just wipe it out. So let's go from the beginning here. In this vehicle select, I added the comments. I added this method called a constructor method by copying and pasting it over from the PDF here. Then there's a bunch of code that I can't touch, and so I leave it alone, but I did end up deleting, there was this main method right here. I ended up deleting main. I said, nope, I don't want it. But if you don't want to delete it, don't bother. It won't make a difference. Okay. Now, it says here, next thing as I scroll down this, it says the code below, but wait a minute, we got to go back here for a second. There was this thing called start that we needed, and it's non-existent. So we know what to do here for this method. We're going to use our light bulb to create the method called start. Why bother writing it when I can use the light bulb to create it? What ends up happening is it puts a method called start down at the bottom of your code, which we will get to, but at least then that avoids that error, so we don't have to go forward. Now I can go back to the PDF and continue, or I can continue on this tutorial. The tutorial shows the same thing, that you're going to be entering this code for vehicle select, okay? So it isn't really helpful on the instruction sheet. It's really no different than you see here. You have to read the comments to know what's going on. Okay, so where are we? We're now right around here. It says, the code below is written by NetBeans, cannot be altered, et cetera, et cetera. Then we get to this one that says, the code below is accessed by double clicking the various buttons on the designer. Oh, okay. So what I'm gonna do, and we only got about 2 minutes left, so I'm just gonna get started on this, is I'm gonna go to design, back to design, and I'm gonna double click choose motorcycle. Oh, okay. Notice that looks exactly like it says here. And now I can call my own method called choose one. Copy that. I'm going to paste that. Choose one means we're going to be calling our own method. So like I did with start, I'm going to use the light bulb and create a method. I'll get to the method later. I'm going to go back to my, to my design, double click choose car. Okay. Go up there. Ah, okay. For choose car, it's actually going to be choose 2. And then for truck, it's going to be choose 3. So this is actually pretty easy. I think I can just do this myself. I don't need to copy and paste off the PDF. Choose 2. Then I go back to the other button, double click it, and choose 3. So that's how I quickly put in the code for start, choose 1, choose 2, and choose 3. Now I know we're going to have to put that code in there, but at least it got us to a place where that's going to be connected with our visual design right there. Scroll down a little bit. This code still has to be added, but that's where it shows how you can get that code from the designer over into your coding section. Okay, if that was confusing, go back in the video and rewatch that section to see how it's done, or read the comments, or read the instruction sheet. I want to do one more thing in this last minute here. If I now go back to the PDF, you see here how it says again that the code was not written by NetBeans, but used the light bulb. And the next thing that would come up is this thing called start. Oh, good. That's the thing I wanted. That's the thing I was going to write. So if I want to, I could copy the comment for start, which it splits between 2 pages here, but I could copy that comment, go down to start, paste in the comment, select it, Alt-Shift-F to clean it up, and maybe add an extra space in right there. There's the timer ticking down. For the code for start itself, I could copy and paste here, and no, I do not need to do this part of the code, this comment here. But I could do these lines right here. Paste them into start. Select them, Alt-Shift-F, format them. Now this line is temporarily generating an error. So I'm going to just comment it out for a second, because at this point, I'm actually going to try to play this thing. Because believe it or not, with the code in start, it might actually be able to do something in this last second of the tutorial time today. So I just wanted to get to that point just to see if we could actually make this thing appear on screen. Well, that's pretty cool. It's actually appearing on screen. Now the buttons don't do anything yet, but at least our design is appearing on screen, which is pretty cool. So that is where we're going to pick up tomorrow, is right there. And I'm going to stop the recording right now.